I'm Kristen Andre, founder and chief strategist of Andre Consulting Group. I founded my company almost 10 years ago because I love helping people not only succeed, but thrive in their careers and their lives. So many times I meet amazing people who have so much more potential than what they're utilizing. As I engage with them, there seems to be a common theme: the limits they place on themselves. Throughout this podcast series, we're going to visit some incredible people who have created more intentional lives for themselves, those who've had that no limits moment where they chose to grow and they put things in motion to help them do so. We will focus on how you can break through limits. We will equip you with strategies to help you lead a more intentional life, and we will have a lot of fun along the way. So let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are here today with Lisa Brown, who is a partner and a wealth advisor at Brightworth here in Atlanta. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. So, you and I met before. We were talking because I work with a lot of advisors. A lot of our listeners know that. And so I'm super excited to have you on here because we're actually going to talk about money and wealth and how to do that today.
That's right.
Because a lot of times that's a topic that people don't like to talk about. Yeah. So tell me how you got into the industry. Tell us a little bit about you.
So this is the first and only career that I've ever had, which is a little unusual for financial advisors.
Very
a lot
unusual.
of people make a career change into financial advising. So I started in this industry right out of college.
Okay.
And a couple years into it, I went and got my MBA thinking, I don't know if financial planning is going to be the right fit for me.
Right.
And so I want to get my MBA because that'll open the world up to me in the business field if I decide, to do something different. So 20 years later, I'm still here.
You're still doing it.
Still doing it.
So all right, so I love the financial field. I like money. We all like money, right? But
of course.
We all want more of it. But it's not, there aren't as many females.
There's not as many females. My company, Brightworth, we're a fee-only wealth management firm, and we are a little unusual in that 2 of our senior financial advisors are women.
Oh, great.
And
okay.
another female up and coming. So we've got, there was at one point we had about 40% of our partners were female. And
that's awesome.
now that we've acquired a firm in Charlotte, that number has, that percentage has gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
But the fact that we have so many women
Right.
in senior leadership positions at our company is a little unique.
That's awesome.
But yeah, in general, when I interview people for financial planner positions at our company, some more entry level,
Right.
it's very rare that you see a woman coming in for an interview.
It is. And you know what? And what part of what we'll get into today is I feel like with finance, it's something that a lot of people don't talk about and don't really want to share. So personally, I feel it's a great industry for women because we're just natural connectors and inquisitive and ask a lot of questions. So.
Well, and I think there's a sense of security to sometimes talking
Right.
with a woman that you can let down your guard. You don't need to maybe from a male standpoint seem as macho or that you've got it all together.
Yep.
And women tend to be better listeners than men.
Yep.
It's just a stereotype.
No offense, guys, but
that's
it's
how
true.
it works. And so when money is really very emotional for
Yes.
a lot of people, and so. If you're talking about your money, you've got to be talking with somebody that you feel you can trust, that'll keep your confidence, that's
Exactly.
knowledgeable, that's been there before, got some experience. You'll find within families, there's a lot of times very limited communication
Right.
about your money. People just don't feel comfortable sharing because they're either embarrassed by it or they don't want to seem boastful if they think they've all got it together, but maybe
Right.
they don't have it together.
Yeah.
So. But money makes, that saying, money makes the world go round.
It does. It really, it's
does.
true. It creates opportunities. It's not about being uber wealthy, although, the people I know that are uber wealthy aren't complaining. But it's really choices and opportunities. Right. So for you in the industry and the work you get to do, how do you guys work with your clients? What's your favorite part about your client interactions and working with them?
For me, the absolute best part about being in this industry is when you've been able to work with somebody for a few years that's in the workforce and they want to retire.
Yep.
And you actually take them through that process of getting over that hump, that hill
Yep.
into retirement, making that transition. You would think that it's a very joyful time in somebody's life to retire, but they're very scared typically.
Yeah.
And even though they've got their money together, if they've been working with a professional for several years, they should have a lot of confidence before they actually turn in that retirement letter that they've got their money and their finances all together. But there's also this fear about, what am I going to do with my time?
Yeah.
I've been spending so many years working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. And so for me to be able to coach somebody, to give them the financial confidence that they're okay, which allows them the freedom to then step back and focus on themselves and their life and their family and what they want to do with their time. I can't tell you how many times that I have said to somebody, you have enough money to retire, and they keep working and they keep working and they keep working because they simply don't know or haven't prepared for what they're going to do with their time.
Now, do you think that retirement looks different now than it used to? Because, when I started in the financial planning industry years ago, used to be people worked for a company forever, then they retired and they had their pension, their Social Security, and it's not like that anymore.
That's
so
right.
It seems like even with younger kids, the millennials, a lot of millennials don't envision retirement the way our parents did or our grandparents did. So
it is absolutely different now. You'll see many people who go into quote unquote retirement, meaning they leave their full-time job.
Right.
They end up taking a few months off and they go back in a consulting role, or they get involved in boards or some sort of very active volunteer work. So it's no longer, I'm going to go sit on the beach and relax for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're really looking for something to stay involved with other people. And it may not always be the field that they spent their careers and built their careers in. But that's very encouraging for somebody to feel like they have something to go to next after they leave that full-time job.
I guess the mental stimulation too, not just the financial piece, but you're dealing with everything, the emotional pieces of retirement too.
That's right. And they're also staying active longer. They want to stay mentally engaged, but they also want to, a lot of times you'll see them become more physically active once they get out of the full-time workforce. And that's a way for them to feel young, to stay healthy, to feel engaged with other people if they're involved in a tennis group or a cycling group or golfing or, whatever that activity may be. But retirement it's more active now than it was in years past for many aspects.
So with the work you do and your team at Brightworth does, is it more are y'all focusing on just the retirement aspect? Or, what are people really focused on financially these days?
So it's not just retirement, but I will tell you that the retirement aspect is usually what triggers many people to call us and say, we need help. When they feel like there's a time frame or deadline approaching, other life events trigger people to call financial advisors. It may be the birth of a child, suddenly coming into a large amount of money for the first time.
I'm waiting on that. If anybody, I've not bought my Powerball ticket, but could happen.
Other major decisions, like I have a new job offer that I'm thinking about taking, and I want to understand what I'm leaving on the table versus what I am about to step into and how that would benefit me.
Right.
So it really is so many different phases of life that people need financial advice. My favorite clients are those that I can get early on in their working careers, because you really, really make a difference for them. Somebody that might need some guidance in their 30s, you could give them maybe 10 steps to set themselves up for the next 5 or 7 years before they really need to come back and engage you significantly for financial advice. But if you can get that foundation laid for somebody, it gives them so much more flexibility the rest of their lives to make the choices, have the choices that they want to with their money.
I think that's huge, because I actually had this conversation with my dad over the weekend, and I've been in the financial field. My dad's a financial advisor for 50 years. So we grew up kind of thinking about these things and knowing, I guess, quote unquote, knowing what you should do. But I was telling him this weekend, I was like, man, if I had to do this over again, there's so many things I would have done different financially than what I did. And this is with having a financial background. So I can't imagine how rewarding it would be, because most people don't think about it. In their 20s or 30s, they're thinking, oh, I'm just getting started. I don't need help. But that's probably ideally the time for them to seek you guys out.
That is ideally the time. And, a lot of the articles that I write about are steps or tips for people in that age group to start off on the right financial foot, because it's so powerful. And seen all those charts and graphs
Oh,
that
yeah.
show the power of, saving money into your 401k in your
Exactly.
20s versus waiting until you're in your 50s.
Yep.
How much shorter time frame you actually need to save money when you start early.
Yeah.
It just provides so much, like I said, so much more flexibility to people the rest of their lives if they can get going early on the right financial foot.
So what mistakes do you think the younger generation, and I'm going to ask you about my generation too, but what mistakes are you seeing people in their 20s, 30s, maybe even into their 40s making financially?
I'd say in their 20s and 30s, one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is actually not saving into the company retirement plan, like the 401k plan, or not saving enough into that. So a very common misconception, I'll ask somebody in their 20s or 30s, are you maximum funding your 401k plan? And they'll say yes. And their definition of yes is, well, I'm putting in the maximum amount to get the free
company
match.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
But that's often not the maximum amount that the IRS allows you to put in each year, which for somebody under 50 years old, this year they can put in up to $18,500 into their 401k plan. So if you're putting in $6,000 because that's all the company will match, you've got some room to improve.
Wiggle. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Okay. What about once you get to your 40s? I'm in the 40s, so what are the mistakes are my friends making?
This is the conversation where it typically turns to housing.
Okay.
So it's, you may be in a better financial position now. You've got some more money coming in the door than you did in your 20s and 30s. And naturally, a lot of people think about upgrading their house,
right?
Buying a bigger house. Hey, I have more money. I can afford a bigger mortgage. Well, that can be a big financial trap for people because with a bigger house comes bigger fixed expenses.
Right.
The mortgage, the property taxes, the maintenance, the insurance, you name it.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I definitely see the housing, bigger house, bigger yard, all that be a mistake that people do make when they're really starting to get on very solid financial footing in their 40s or even early 50s. And the conversation also then switches typically in their 50s to, should I buy a vacation home?
Yep.
I want to have the place at the beach or the mountains.
Gotta have the place at the beach.
Gosh, it sounds so fabulous. I am definitely not an advocate of that. I am an advocate of renting, rent the best, invest the rest, that saying. But real estate is by far, the biggest area I see people get tripped up in financially. They get stuck. They think it's going to be a great investment. Many times it doesn't turn out to be, or they say, oh gosh, this is, especially when people start having grandchildren, they start thinking this is going to be the place where the family's going to come for a reunion every year at Thanksgiving or the holidays.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. It's hard to get people scattered throughout the country to come back together for a week every year. So I would definitely caution people against buying too much house or upgrading into a bigger house just because you have the money and can afford to do it.
Okay. I think that's a great point. And there's a lot of mistakes that a bunch of us make. And, it's one of those areas where sometimes we make them and don't know we're making them. And that's where somebody, an advisor comes in and says, okay, here, let me hold the mirror up and show you what this is going to look like down the road. Yeah. Because a lot of times if we're thinking about buying that beach house, you go to the beach, you're like, oh, sure be great to have a place down here. Yeah. And you think about that immediate gratification versus your long-term financial goals.
Another area that is really helpful for people in their 40s to spend the time doing is putting a budget together. That sounds incredibly painful for somebody to want to sit down on a Saturday afternoon and do that. But it is eye-opening when people realize, how much money they're spending and where they're spending it. And when I ask the question to new clients, do you have an idea of your living expenses? 90% of the time people say, no, I have no idea what we're spending. I said, well, show me your paycheck. When I see what is being direct deposited from your paycheck into your checking account, 9 times out of 10, that's what you're spending.
Yeah.
Most people are spending every bit of their take-home pay.
And most people don't know where it goes. I'm meticulous with my budget. I'm a QuickBooks junkie, so I use QuickBooks. So but some months I know where it goes, but I'll look at it, I'm like, I spent how much at Starbucks this month? Yeah. It can get you. And a lot of times when back when I was still seeing clients, and even with my coaching clients, I'll meet with them and they don't have a good grasp of where the money's going out.
That's right.
What's variable, what can they control a little bit.
And some things they're not really accounting for are expenses you don't pay on a month-to-month basis. Like if it's private school tuition for a child, or it's vacations, or it's car insurance that maybe you pay once every 6 months. But those are some, life insurance premiums. That's another one I see. Pay it once a year. It kind of creeps up on you. And so when you try to add all those factors together, one of the places I love to start is with a credit card statement. Your annual credit card statement, that year-end summary that most people put a lot of their expenses on a credit card. That allows you to see, here's some of those bigger bills that I wasn't accounting for. It's not the gas bill or the electric bill or the cell phone bill. But that can beef up that budget.
It does. Well, we're going to pause for a second, and then when we come back, we're going to dive into some tips Lisa has for the up-and-comers and all of us really to kind of help take better control of our finances. We'll be back in just a few. Hey everyone, it's Kristen. Be sure and visit my website at www.andregroup.com. That's www.andree.group.com. And while you're there, be sure to download my white paper, Top 10 Reasons Your Business Isn't Growing Fast Enough. Now get out there and create your no limits moment. Welcome back, everyone. We are chatting with Lisa Brown of Brightworth and talking all things finance today. So before the break, we were talking a lot about what's tripping people up and the challenges, but you also have some tips. So we've talked about 5 tips for these young high-income earners and what they can do.
That's right. I like to use the phrase making bank at a young age.
I like it. Very nice.
Find yourself in a fortunate situation where the payroll's coming in, and this is the time to be really, really smart about that opportunity in front of you. You might have a big bonus coming your way, or maybe got a big promotion. And I think the number one piece of advice that I would give young high-income earners is this doesn't last forever. It may not last forever. So be smart to take advantage of this opportunity that's come your way.
All right, that's huge. Because I have an advisor client that works with a lot of athletes, and that's one of the things he stresses all the time is you've got 5 years to pay for the rest of your life, basically. Right. So I'm thinking athletes, actors.
It could be even corporate executives. If there's a layoff at your company a few years down the road, you may not be able to go get as great of a position at the next company as you got here. So it's or you might be working for a startup that's about to get bought out, and you're going to see a windfall come your way.
Yep.
The next 2, 3, 5 startups you work for, may not be as have as good of an ending. So
because we only hear about the big startups, the ones that sell and this 23-year-old sold his company for $500 million.
Exactly. But for every one of those stories, there's probably 1,000 stories where the doors just close and it never goes anywhere.
Yep.
So, it's just having your eyes wide open when these opportunities are coming your way. And I think it's really easy for people to see a big windfall come their way and say, ooh, what can I go buy with this? They start thinking about the fun, fancy car or the big vacation or whatever that may be. And it's okay to have some fun, with this extra money. But especially if it's something that it's a big raise and it's going to be sustained likely for hopefully several years, you got to have a plan for what to do with that money.
Absolutely.
Because this is the time where you don't want to screw up and waste it.
Right. All right. So number one, it's not going to last forever.
It's not going to last forever.
Okay.
So make sure you put that rainy day fund in place. Use the phrase the emergency fund. It's a good rule of thumb to have anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your normal month-to-month living expenses just parked in cash.
And you're not spending it. That
you're not
does
spending
not
it.
mean it's for shopping sprees.
And put it in a bank where your checking account is not. So you're not tempted to go spend that money or easily move it from savings to checking online. I love the online banks that don't have any branches you walk into. So since they don't have the overhead of all the employees and the branches, they can pay a much higher rate of interest. So there's tons of online banks that are out there. They're FDIC insured.
Yep.
They'll advertise at their interest rates 8 to 10 times the national average. That's a great place for your rainy day fund because that cash is meant to sit there and be safe.
It's your what if money.
It's your what if money.
Got it. Okay.
And then also, Next thing you should do is think about any debts that are outstanding. Do you have student loans? Do you have credit card bills? Especially if somebody's in an industry where, like say working for a startup and they're, really excited about the project, but barely getting by, making ends meet. And they may have racked up some credit card bills just to pay living expenses. Well, your company's about to get bought out and you get this big windfall. Look at the debt that you've accumulated in the past, clean that up, get it off the balance sheet. Those are fixed payments you can wipe off the slate very easily. So get rid of all the debt. And really important comment coming next, which is don't plan to rack up that debt again.
Right.
You've got your rainy day fund now. You should not have a reason to go into credit card debt anymore. So that's something that can be a lifelong struggle for people. So if you find yourself with an opportunity where you can get rid of that, do it.
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
And I think that's important, especially for, well, I can't say for younger people. It's, people are coming out of school with astronomical amounts of debt. And that was one, I was very blessed that my parents paid for my college. Mm-hmm. That's my goal with my children as well, is because I see so many people that graduate and they have great jobs, but they've got just this mound of debt. And you're right, you've got to address it or it just keeps growing.
Those student loan payments can easily be a mortgage payment.
A mortgage payment, yeah.
Yep. And so it's just a burden. It will burden you for possibly your whole working career if you don't jump on it early. Yep. So even if you're not in a position where you get a big windfall or get the big job, the best thing you can do is start tackling that debt early on, systematically, month to month. What can I sock away and apply
not just
towards
the minimum
debt?
payments.
Absolutely
really trying to
not.
sock away at it. Okay.
Sock it away and do not keep increasing that balance, because you're not going to feel any sense of accomplishment if you work real hard to pay down what you racked up in the past if you keep adding to the bills going forward.
Exactly.
It's like a vicious cycle. You just can't get off
of.
So the next tip is one we just talked about, which was the house.
Yes.
Do not go buy the big old fancy house, or
don't go house poor.
If you're renting an apartment, it doesn't mean that you need to go buy a house or a condo. Or if you're in a condo, it doesn't mean you need to go upgrade to, a nice fancy house. Do it smartly. I mean, I'm a big advocate of owning a home, but it has to be a reasonable size home. Right. One that if you lost this job and you have your rainy day fund, you've got to be able to make that mortgage payment for several months.
Right. That's true.
So you've got to balance that out, because I've seen it take people a year or two to find another job after they've got laid off.
Oh, yeah. And it seems like when that happens, the higher your salary or position was, the harder and the longer it takes.
Yeah. So it can be super exciting to get that big title or that big salary. But you're absolutely right. That is hard to go. Not all companies are going to, recognize what a superstar you are just because your prior company did.
Exactly.
And there could be somebody very senior in that position that plans to be there for 10 years. And so you might take a step down when you go to the next company thinking, hey, I'll get there. I've done it before. But if that person in front of you is not going to retire for 10 or 15 years, you may not get that salary.
So these are all things to think about then when you're looking at buying a home, or when looking at whatever you're going to do, buy, rent, what have you, what those payments are going to be.
I remember when my husband and I went to buy our first home, and the real estate agent gave us a ballpark about what we could afford. And I just remember thinking, that is insane. There's no way I could afford that, X $100,000 house at that point. And I'm so glad that we kind of stuck to our guns and did got a smaller home and we grew into it. Maybe it was a little bit more than we could afford as our first home, but we absolutely grew into it. And then when we bought our second home, it's easily manageable.
Right.
Easily
You're used
manageable.
to it by then.
You're used to it.
Absolutely.
And you're finally seeing some traction made on getting that mortgage paid down. If you buy the big old mortgage that's got the high monthly payment and you're paying a ton of interest on it, you're just not going to see that balance go down significantly for a long time. So make sure you make smart moves with the house that you buy and the house that you stay in. Just kind of like, I'm a big advocate of having a car for 10 years and run it into the ground.
I am terrible with that. I am.
Yeah.
I'm not as bad as my brother. My brother's like, I've had this car a year and a half. I think it's time for a new one.
Yeah, I'm an advocate. It's a depreciating asset. Cars are depreciating assets. So, if you're going to spend $60,000 on a nice car and reward yourself, just can you drive it for 10 years and make it a little bit more manageable? That's my only hope.
Lisa, that is an area of opportunity for me because I don't keep cars. I definitely don't run them into the ground.
Yeah.
I'll keep them till they're I don't know. I think I keep them till they're paid off. I'm like, wait a minute, it's paid off. Probably should go get another car.
Yeah.
But houses, I'm a little different with houses. I love big houses. I really do. But I'm at the point in my life now where one of my kids is in college, I have two at home. I'm sitting here going, I don't like a big yard. I honestly think my next move will probably be a nice little townhome where I'm not having to pay as much in maintenance and everything. I don't know if it's going to save me any money with some of the great townhomes they have going up here, but I just don't want the space.
Well, that's absolutely the
But
trend.
I think financially, it's probably going to be about the same.
When people, they get to the point where they're empty nesters and they're looking at downsizing, I always encourage people that you're not going to downsize the price tag. You're going to downsize the square footage. And your maintenance cost will go down for sure. In a big yard to have to get manicured, every week. But planning to, unless you've got massive amounts of equity in your home, chances are people are going to end up with a fairly similar price tag home.
Yep.
In their early retirement or early empty nester phase. So it's not going to be an opportunity where most people take gobs of cash and put it into their portfolio.
Right. And it's, it's one of those things because I'm pretty set on that I want a little bit smaller space and, want the townhome feel. And so I'm not having to do I don't cut my grass. I mean, I'm like you, but you're spending money on yard maintenance and all that. But I am price tag wise, I'm going to be the same. Yeah. So financially, it's not going to, there's nothing to put in the bank. There's nothing extra I'm saving. Right.
So especially if you have been living in the suburbs and you want to move in town to be, walking or biking to everything, just a different lifestyle.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to downsize your price tag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So the next tip is one that's going to sound really boring when you get this windfall, but it's just make sure you're building your core investment strategy. And what I mean by that is you got the 401k set up. You have to set up an IRA or just a regular brokerage account. What we see a lot of times is when people come into a large amount of cash suddenly that they haven't had before, their ears start opening up to, the hot stock tip of the day, or hey, here's a deal where you can triple your money overnight.
You can't lose, right?
You can't lose, and or friends start coming out of the woodwork with these different business opportunities that you can invest in. So, just like having that emergency fund, you have to have a core investment strategy, something that will be there to grow and that you can live off the rest of your life. So when you remember those commercials years and years ago about what is your number for retirement?
Exactly.
Somebody's walking around with this big number on their shoulder. So work with a financial advisor, do the math to figure out what that number is to maintain your core lifestyle the rest of your life. And let's say that's $2 million, for example. If you can build that up in a core investment strategy and you've got extra to play with, play with it.
That's your play money.
That's your play money. Absolutely. Somebody who is, I call a serial entrepreneur. They love to start a business and start another, sell it and then start another one. We always make sure that when they're selling their business, they're carving off a piece of that for their core. Perfect. And then taking the rest to reinvest and start another company. It's just a way to systematically build that wealth over a long period of time.
Good.
Yep. So that core investment strategy. Okay. And then the last tip is have a financial advisory board. Okay. So you hear about companies having a board of directors,
sure.
Or a charity having a board of directors. This is your own board of directors, but this is somebody or typically a group of people who have essentially walked in your shoes before. They've been there, done that. So if you are 30 years old and you're about to sell your company, find somebody who has been through that process before and find out what they did with their money, or more likely what mistakes they made with their money. So you want to connect with people who don't have any financial incentive for the money you're about to come into. So, right? So
I like that idea a lot.
It may not be a family member that's on your board. It's somebody who, again, who's been there, done that, or somebody in your life that you've seen be very financially successful.
Okay.
And you say, they've clearly done something right. Let me see if they're willing to give me some advice.
Exactly.
And this is especially important if you don't have a financial advisor that you've worked with for a long period of time. You want to surround yourself with people who can help you vet ideas, who can help you cross opportunities off the list. And again, really importantly, people who don't have any personal interest in your financial success.
And I think that's huge. So those are 5 really good tips. And we're going to pause for another minute. And then when we come back, we're going to wrap it all up. And we're going to issue a challenge. So I want to review those tips when we come back just to make sure I got them. But we're also going to issue a challenge to our listeners with some ideas Lisa have to help you bust through those financial limits. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, check out my podcast, No Limits with Kristen Andre, on Tuesday nights at 7:30. We will tackle the things holding you back and the limits you set on yourself and equip you with some strategies to lead more intentional lives. Podcast launches every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on facebook.com/Andre Group. That's facebook.com/ANDREE Group. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everyone, to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are wrapping up our time with Lisa Brown from Brightworth. So thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You've given us some good tips to think about.
I hope so.
I like it. All right. So we were chatting during the break. And for those of you guys listening or watching that tune in a lot, you know, I'm big on accountability and big on issuing challenges, because the whole point in my kind of draw to do this podcast was to help people push through limits they have. And I feel really strongly about that. And I know for a lot of people, the financial aspect of their life is a big challenge, and it's placing a lot of limits on things they want to do. Right. And things that they'd really like to pursue, but they can't for one reason or another. So you have a fantastic challenge for the listeners.
I do. So if you are in a job that you don't like, can't stand, or you're finding yourself daydreaming about starting your own business.
Right, and let's be real, that's a lot of people these days, don't you think?
It is a lot of people. I think that especially with the typical millennial generation, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit in that generation. And it's really encouraging. And there's a lot of opportunity that comes out of it. You know, they say 90% of the jobs in this country are created by small business owners. So certainly a lot of opportunity, but it can be very scary when you are in a position where you have a paycheck and then you're about to go into no paycheck land.
Yes.
So whether that be, you know, I really need to change careers, change industries, start over, or I want to go start my own business, if you can triple the amount of money in your emergency fund. So earlier in the program, I said have 3 to 6 months of living expenses. If you can get that up to at least a year or more of your living expenses saved up in the bank, you just opened up the playing field for yourself to go launch your company, to go change jobs. Maybe it's go back to school and get a different degree. Okay. When you've got that financial security behind you that you can keep paying your bills, you're not going to be racking up credit card debt, you can keep paying your mortgage, and go try this next venture, you're more likely to stick at it and get through those especially early tough few months of launching your company, for example, if you've got the resources in the bank where personally you and your family will be okay. So a year is certainly not too little.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. And you know what's interesting is, having launched, I went from a corporate job to a starting advisory practice. So nice salary to zero. I launched a consulting firm. So I've done that a couple times, and it is scary. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely scary. And you want to be able, when you launch a business or a new career, to make decisions from a place of strength.
That's right.
And not having to make it from a place of scarcity. And I feel like if you're trying to figure out how can I pay the bills, you're taking on business or clients or opportunities that you probably shouldn't take.
That's right. And you're taking energy away from building that business or the opportunity you've been dreaming about because you're so stressed about what's going on, making ends meet personally. So having that double, triple size emergency fund gives you confidence. It gives you peace of mind. You can sleep better at night. And if you're losing sleep, hopefully it's because you're so excited about the next opportunity with your company, and you want to start it right. You want to grow it wisely. Because you'll be able to get to a position of financial security with your new business, for example, that much more quickly if you can grow it well and not have to, make rash decisions just to make a buck.
Right. And that's an awesome piece of advice. So double or triple that emergency fund. And it's going to give you choices. Like we talked about, we started off the show talking about that. Money and finances and accumulating wealth is about choices.
That's right. And for people in the financial industry, a lot of us have signed non-compete, non-solicit agreements with our company, which says, hey, if you decide to leave one day, you can't go get a job for the next 2 years, in the 90-mile radius or whatnot. So if you're in a job where you've signed a restrictive agreement like that, think about what the time frame is in that agreement. Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? that may be
Right.
what your emergency fund needs to be. Because again, something changes in the leadership of that company, or you just simply are no longer happy, you want to give yourself the flexibility to leave and move on and not have to worry about paying the mortgage.
And I think that's good. That's an excellent point. With this emergency fund comes freedom. It comes the ability to, not get around a non-compete, but to be able to kind of take the time to figure out what you want to do, to see what your business wants to look like. And for those of you guys, for the small percentage of people out there listening who love what they do and love their job. I mean, I do, but it's my own company, so that helps. But,
right.
If you're working for a company that you just love what you do, the emergency fund is still a must. We just don't know the what ifs that may come up.
Nobody knows what tomorrow's gonna hold for us. You could love your job, but find yourself in a situation where, for example, mom or dad has taken ill, and you need to take 6 months off to go care for them or help them, with their day to day. So you just never know why you may need to rely on that emergency fund, but. The minimum of 3 to 6 months is the textbook definition. I'd say let's think about the real world here and opportunities and life taking a turn on us for the unexpected.
Yeah.
Build up a year or more and give yourself that much more cushion.
I like that. So you guys have the challenge, a year's worth of emergency fund. So we've actually created a page on Facebook, a community on Facebook. It's #NoLimitsMoment. And we ask you to go there and share with us what you're doing. Let us know how you're doing towards that emergency fund, what you want to do. If you got a business idea you want to launch, share it with us and let us help support you. So visit us on Facebook at #NoLimitsMoment and let us know how you're doing with it. So Lisa, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Brightworth, for allowing you to come on our show and share your tidbits of wisdom. And you guys can reach her. We'll post the contact info on your page, but you also write a lot too. So I got to give you the plug there. She's got a lot of articles on Kiplinger, which is a big, big, big deal. So take advantage of the expertise and reach out if you need anything. And until next time, keep pushing past those limits. Have a great one.